Advanced Financial Modeling, Topic 6, Forwards and Futures, Learning Objective Number 8. We're going to construct strip hedges and stack and roll hedges. So let's talk about what a strip hedge is. Suppose Hershey Foods wants to lock into the price of cocoa for 1 ton per month for the next 12 months, say January through December. It could simply enter into one contract at each maturity, 12 total contracts. This is called a strip hedge, which is hedging a stream of obligations, or in this case, planned purchases, by offsetting each with a futures contract matching the maturity date. So again, if you had January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, you would simply have one contract long for each maturity for 12 total contracts. So this is called a strip hedge. However, what I'm going to talk about is a stack hedge, which initially won't make any sense. What it's going to say is, well, if you need 12 contracts, just do 12 contracts in January and it'll be okay. So this is the concept. And again, we'll start off. Hershey Foods wants to lock into the price of cocoa for the next 12 months. We'll just say 1 ton of cocoa for the next 12 months. It could lock into 12 contracts with the nearest maturity, just January, the shortest maturity. And the reason why is because often in futures contracts, the nearest maturity has the highest liquidity. So it's less likely you move the price by trading in the near-term contract versus trading in, say, something 12 months from now. So if they do that, if they do this example of they buy 12 futures for January, even though they're trying to protect the price for the next 12 months, we call this a stack hedge. Now, this concept of stack and roll. So if Hershey chooses to have the 12 contracts in January, what it will do, it will unwind the 12 contracts before the January contract expires and put a new hedge of 11 contracts in the near-term month, February. So for example, again, if they initially at, say, January 1st or December 31st put in the 12 January contracts, just before expiration in January, they're going to unwind those contracts by shorting them, and then they'll put 11 contracts in February. Just before those mature, they're going to unwind them and then put 10 contracts in March. So this is called rolling the futures. And so we're going to talk about why you would roll the futures and talk about the effective cost for Hershey Foods for doing this. Now, what I'm going to show you is in the end, it doesn't matter in certain circumstances whether you do a strip hedge, which makes a lot of sense, one contract for each month, because that's really what you want to protect the price of. But it doesn't matter if you do that or do a stack and roll. And if there's liquidity constraints in further months, it may actually benefit you by entering this stack hedge. So let's talk about the strip hedge, and we'll put some numbers to it, and then we'll compare that to a stack and roll. So if we we're going to do a different example, not Hershey Foods, but say a firm requires oil in 1 or 2 years, 1 and 2 years. So they're expecting to buy oil in 1 year and 2 years, and they're trying to protect against a price increase. And we'll assume that in pricing oil futures contracts, there's no convenience yield, no storage cost, no lease rate. And also assume that the risk-free rate is 5% for all maturities. That allows us to calculate the cost to carry and come up with a theoretical futures price. So here's the strip hedge. The firm takes a long position in the 1 year and the 2 year futures at time 0. So today they enter into a 1 year contract and a 2 year contract. And then they're going to unwind the 1 year contract just before maturity and then the 2 year contract just before maturity. So let's talk about what the theoretical futures price should be. If the current spot price of oil is $60, the 1 year futures quoted today should be $60 plus the cost to carry. It should be $63. And the 2 year contract would be $60 times 1.05 to the second period. That's the cost to carry for 2 years. So in theory, the 2 year price should be $66.15. All right, so say they enter into the contract, they went long the 1 year at 63, and they went long the 2 year at 66. And what they were trying to protect against is an increase in prices. So let's just talk about a scenario which is bad for them. what if the prices do immediately after they put these two hedges on, the prices go to $100 and stay there. The prices of oil, it goes to $100 and stay there. So if they didn't hedge, they would pay $100. Remember that futures price and spot prices converge at maturity. So if they didn't hedge, they didn't put these two contracts on, they would pay $100 each year for oil. However, they have the hedge. So just before maturity of the first contract, they're going to unwind at a futures price of $100. However, they are locked into a futures contract of 63. So they're going to pay 63 and they're going to short it and sell it at 100, and they're going to make a profit of this difference. All right, so you can think about this here as just the profit from the futures contract, ST minus F for being long. And then they'll go out and buy oil where they normally buy oil. And the effective cost is they pay $63 for 1 year oil because they made a profit from the first contract, and they used that to offset the higher cost of oil. Now, the second contract, we'll just say futures prices and spot prices are converge at $100 again at the end of the second year. They're going to make money on that contract. Remember, they locked in at 66.15. So the profit from the futures contract will be the ST minus F. So they're going to make some 40 some dollars there, and they'll pay the $100 for oil, and so they are locked in. All right, so this is showing that if the company gets the strip hedge and unwinds close to maturity, they lock into the 1 year and 2 year futures price. However, what if they do a stack and roll hedge? And by the way, this is the examples with dollars in the spreadsheet and the start and end files. But what if they do this stack and roll hedge? All right, so just to reiterate, this is the cash flows from the strip hedge. They're going to pay $63 at end of year 1 and $66.15 at the end of year 2. But here's the stack and roll hedge. They're going to go long on 2 contracts at 63. So they're going to do 2 of these contracts, that one year contracts at 63. They're not going to enter into a 2 year contract at today. Then at the end or at the maturity of the 1 year contract, they're going to unwind both of those contracts, those 2 contracts at 63. And what you can think about it is you can think about unwinding those 2 contracts one at a time. The first contract they unwind, they make profit, and they buy oil. Remember, they need oil in year 1. So effectively, they lock into a price of 63, just like the strip hedge. Then they unwind the second contract at the same time. They also make a profit, that $37. But what they do is they invest that $37 at the risk-free rate 5%, and they save it for the second year. Then, now that they've unwound both contracts, they're going to simultaneously enter into one position by taking a 1 year futures contract 1 year from now. So that's the 1 year futures contract 1 year from now, which then matures at the second year in which they need it to purchase. And at that point, remember, the spot price jumped to 100. So in theory, they'd have to lock into a futures price of 105. Again, the cost to carry is 5%. So now, 1 year from now, they have $37 in the bank. They bought their oil at 63 effectively for the first year. And they now have a futures contract at 105. And that seems really bad, right? Because they would like to lock into 66.15. But watch this. At the end of year 2, that second contract matures. However, they're going to unwind right before maturity. And we'll just say that prices again go to $100. It doesn't matter what we say they go to, it doesn't matter. So the price goes to $100. They're going to unwind that contract. They're going to then buy oil for $100. So effectively, they're going to pay $105, but not so fast. Remember that $37 of profit they got from that contract the first year that was invested at 5%? That gave them profit of $38.85. When I take the $105 they paid for oil plus the profit from the first year, it effectively cost them $66.15 for oil in year 2. So it didn't matter whether they did a strip hedge using the 1 and 2 year contracts or a stack and roll hedge where they stacked up the 1 year contract and then bought another 1 year contract 1 year later. The profit's the same. And I could have made up other numbers and said that, well, what if the prices of oil went to $200? Well, that's okay. You'd still see that the effective cost is 105 because they'd make more money on the futures contract that they unwound and pay more money on the spot purchase, and it would still be $66.15. So this is a stack and roll hedge. It's used by organizations all the time because of the increased liquidity in the near-term contracts. And here's the spreadsheet to kind of prove out those examples. All right, so again, why stack and roll? Well, long-term contracts are either not available or illiquid. Sometimes you don't even see a quote for a contract 3-4 years in advance. Also, you might do it just because you don't like the price of say the 2 or 3 year futures price. Due to illiquidity, you may see bad prices, so you're better off just doing a stack and roll. Another reason, is a bit technical, is you're betting on the flattening of the forward curve. So all that means is you're hoping that the cost of carry is going to fall when you go ahead and lock in that, say, 1 year contract 1 year from now, maybe the cost of carry falls. So you're just kind of betting that the forward prices versus the spot, that forward spot basis is going to fall. All right, and I just wanted to show you one thing. When you enter into forward contracts or futures contracts, I should say, what are the alternatives to closing out? Well, you could take delivery, hold the future to maturity and take delivery. Or 2, you can unwind it by taking an opposite position. But I just want to list here another alternative that many organizations use. It's kind of like the second one where you're unwinding the future by taking the opposite position, but you just get another organization in which you hand them your futures contract and they give you physical delivery of the commodity. So they kind of do both steps for you in that they unwind the contract and then deliver you whatever commodity you actually want on a particular date, particular quantity or quality. And they call those exchange futures for physical delivery. So again, these other institutions will offer to unwind and deliver whatever you need. All right, so that's it. That is constructing strip hedges and stack and roll hedges.